In this video, we're going to take what we've already done in a previous video with adding the basement, and we're going to modify it to turn most of this house into a walkout basement. Now, in future learnings, we'll actually talk more about the sides where the hill or the landform would actually drop, and there'd be ways to kind of cut in on the foundation wall to kind of stair step this exterior surface down a little bit more. But for now, what we're really going to worry about is the side of the house where the walkout basement would be a 2 stories. Okay. And for that, we're going to use this end of the house. So our first step is actually to modify the existing foundation wall. Now, some of these modification steps would not be necessary if you were drawing it fully in the first place. So again, if you're starting brand new, don't draw the full height wall in just to modify it later. Draw it in correctly. But if you do need to modify it, what you can do is we can actually use our control key and we'll grab all of these walls here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up here to the top and we are going to detach the top or base because right now the top is attached to the floor. So we're going to click detach and it's going to look and you're not real sure what it's doing. What you actually have to do is you actually have to click the floor to say detach from this. So then the command will clear and they will be detached. What we can now do is tell the top constraint that instead of going all the way up to the ground level, just go up to basement level. And when we apply that, that entire foundation wall will shrink down and will only be 3 feet tall. So it goes up from foundation 2 to the basement level. So you can see the floor here actually comes and sits right, kind of meets that right on top. Our next thing we're going to do is we are going to go to our ground level and we are going to modify the floor because if you look at our 3D view, the floor comes all the way out. So if I extend this wall to go all the way down, it's actually going to have this floor section interrupting the wall, and we don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and modify our floor. So if I come over here, I can grab something about the floor. If you're having trouble getting it like I was, you can actually click it in a 3D view, and when it's blue there, when you switch views, it'll still be highlighted. And I can click Edit Boundary. Well, the walls I want to get rid of, or the lines I want to get rid of, are those top ones that match up to the walls. And then I like to use the Pick Line tool, and I pick the inside surface of the wall. As we go into multiple stories, you'll likely use that surface for your floors a lot more often now, as opposed to running them all the way out. But we'll go ahead and we will trim those out so that now our floor is like that. And when I accept it, be aware it's going to ask about attaching. Okay. Your option is now unjoin elements and you should be good to go. So on our 3D view, you'll notice our floor is now cut back. So next, either selecting them here or in the 3D view, either way works. We're going to select all of these exterior walls. It's a little easier to see what we're doing in the 3D view. So this is what we're doing. We're going to make 2 changes. The first thing we're going to do is our top constraint. We're going to attach it to the roof level and we'll apply that. So it'll be attached to the roof level. It doesn't look like anything changed. That's exactly the way it should be. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our base constraint and instead of ground level, we're going to change it to basement. When we apply that, it should send that all the way down. Now, just be aware that your corners are kind of going to look a little funny because there's a lot of stuff coming together. Like I said, when we do this brand new, the floor would probably end up on the inside of all these walls. We'd extend, you know, either the foundation wall all the way to the bottom of this wall or the wall down. We'd kind of make that so that this funky corner doesn't end up the way that is. You'll notice I'm kind of the same on the other side. So be okay with that for now because this gets you really the concept that you need as far as the walkout basement goes. Of course, we would then probably add some sort of door down here. If you had a door up above previously, you'd probably need to build a deck using the flooring tool and the railing tool. But this is really the walkout basement portion of it. At this point, you just add doors and windows where you need them. All right, so with that part, we also want to look at our foundation. Okay, so as we look at our foundation levels, I'm going to go ahead and open foundation 2. Um, we have this, which works just fine. One thing we didn't do is we did not support the center of the house, okay, which we do slightly differently when we have a basement. So our first thing to do is to go into graphics and visibility and make sure lines are visible in this view. Otherwise, when we draw this next line, we're going to get what looks like an error message. It's just telling you, hey, there's no lines in this visible in this view. So we're going to start on this edge. We're going to draw all the way across horizontally to this edge right here. And as we draw across, or after we draw across, we can put that in here and we can click and see what our spacing is. So at this point, I've got 4 feet 2 inches, and I've got 14 feet 2 inches. I've got 13 feet up here. So I'm going to start to make some adjustments until that is even. So go here, 13 feet and 1 inch, and that does not work. So we're going to try 13 feet, 6 inches, getting closer. So I'm now off by about an inch and a quarter is what I need to add to each one. So we'll go 13 feet, 7.25. And that gets me 13 and 7 and a quarter, 13, 7 and a quarter on each side. So my line is now centered. On this line, I'm going to do what I've done before, and I'm going to use a foundation wall. That is the footer. And I am going to draw that at 3 feet to make my footer. Now, if I grab this, it's going to give me 12.6. I think I need to be closer around 11 there. So we'll go ahead and click it one more time. I ended up accidentally grabbing a tool there, so we'll click that. Go here, 11 feet. We'll start there. I can always move them later. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into architecture. I'm going to grab an architectural column. I'm going to click load family because I don't have the right column loaded. So from the English Imperial, I've got a columns folder. I'm going to grab the round column. And I'm going to go ahead and put it centered on my footer there. You'll notice it is a small circle. It's one of these, what we're using is basically those 6-inch steel columns that you see in basements. So when we click that, what we want to do is we want to have the base level be foundation 2. That is correct. The top of it be ground level minus 6. Oh, we're going to try again. Okay, making all sorts of mistakes at this time. Ground level negative 6 inches. So that's 6 inches below the ground level, so I shouldn't see the column sticking up into the floor when I look at the ground level. So I can actually look here, I'll see my measurements, but if I look, there's no column there. All right, perfect. So that gives us that. It'll go up through the basement. Now I highlight both. I tell it to make an array. I'm going to go 15 feet to the side by going sideways, typing in 15 feet. I can fit 5 in here if I remember correctly, and that is correct. All right, so I can fit 5 across. You can mess with it. You can always adjust this number to get the number that you need. The other thing I'm going to do is I am going to double check and measure over on this side and see where we're at when I measure from here to the wall. So at that, I'm at 10'6". Over here, I definitely am more than that. So I'm going to get the measure again. And that is 12 feet. So I'm going to just move it over about 1'3". So I'm going to go ahead and highlight these. I'm going to click, actually, I think I need to highlight them all. We're going to do that, highlight them all, I'm going to click move, and off of this corner, I'm going to click and I'm going to drag straight horizontally 1 foot 3 inches. And that's going to scoot everything over. Um, just by eyeballing it, it looks pretty centered. I would actually take the measure tool and measure it so I know that I'm centered. I can move things around a little bit more if I need to. But if as long as it's within about an inch of being centered, yours is accurate. At this point, you can go look at your worksheet that you would use to turn this activity in, take screenshots of the appropriate levels, paste those on your worksheet, turn them in, and you're good to go with both styles of basements.